In the United States, a black bear breaks into a home, stealing a pan of lasagna.
Authorities urge locals to remain vigilant and promptly report such incidents. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is flying to Riyadh to attend the ASEAN GCC Summit. The Philippines and the United Kingdom discuss the situation in the West Philippine Sea. Russia's Putin visits Chinese leader Xi Jinping in a show of no-limits partnership. U.S. President Joe Biden is heading to Israel in an unusual wartime visit this week. And 2 Swedes died in a terror attack in Belgium. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, has green-lighted the release of additional social amelioration programs, or SAP funds, for sugar industry workers. This provides additional reserve funds of 6.8 million pesos for the maternity benefits program and 11.76 million pesos for the death benefits for sugar workers. With this, recipients of maternity benefits will receive 8,000 pesos instead of 5,000, while beneficiaries of the death benefits will be given 14,000 pesos instead of 10,000. The additional reserve funds will be allocated to 9 regional offices and 2 provincial offices. The agency notes that the SAP is aimed to augment the income of sugar workers and provide monetary support for their livelihood and well-being.
The Department of Agriculture has set a target to bolster local livestock production by 5 times by the year 2028 in response to the escalating food security challenges in the Philippines. One of the key focuses will be on biosecurity measures for livestock, particularly addressing diseases like African swine fever and avian influenza. Agriculture Undersecretary for Livestock Diogracia Savillano explains that there are already vaccines available for avian influenza, but the lack of approved protocols for testing and use has hindered progress. He adds that addressing regulation for veterinary needs, drugs, and biologicals is necessary to encourage greater investments in the agriculture sector.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has reiterated a strong commitment to bolstering the rice industry in the Philippines while prioritizing the well-being of farmers and consumers. He emphasizes this dedication during the 6th International Rice Congress, affirming the nation's commitment to adopting a comprehensive scientific approach to address challenges within the rice sector. President Marcos urges both the public and private sectors to maintain a collaborative relationship with the International Rice Research Institute, emphasizing the need to jointly address concerns regarding the price and supply of rice. Furthermore, the government is actively engaged in close cooperation with the Institute and foreign governments to enhance the development and sharing of essential technologies and strategies.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. advocates for the private sector to invest in electric vehicle manufacturing in the Philippines as a commitment to bringing safe and modern transportation to the masses. He states this during the launch of Dongfeng Motors in the country held in Ortigas. The Marcos administration is offering fiscal incentives, including income tax holidays, raw materials, and more, to achieve this goal in upholding the Paris Agreement. There are currently around 8,800 e-vehicles in the country based on the 2020 polls. Accordingly, the president aims to increase this amount to 50% of all vehicles in the Philippines by 2040.
The Philippines is set to host this year's Asia-Pacific meeting of the Global Research Council, or GRC Summit, tomorrow, October 18 to October 20, 2023. The GRC is a virtual organization consisting of the heads of science and engineering funding agencies around the globe with the goal of promoting data sharing. Spearheaded by the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST Philippine Council for Industry, Energy and Energy Technology, the historic opportunity will feature initiatives on research, particularly in the scientific community. The agency is expecting 120 delegates from various countries in the Asia-Pacific, Europe, and Africa.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is flying to Riyadh for a short affair. Madeline Villar-Moratillo for the details.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is set to leave on October 19 for the ASEAN Gulf Cooperation Summit in Saudi Arabia. DFA is expecting possible cooperation on a supply activity that can mitigate oil prices in ASEAN member countries. The president will also raise the settlement of the unpaid salaries of over 10,000 Filipino migrant workers in Riyadh. The agency noted that this will be the president's first attendance at the said summit. The Foreign Affairs Department added that the president's trip would only be for around 24 hours, followed by a Filipino community meeting. Madeline Villar-Moratillo for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines has been named as Asia's best cruise destination for 2023 at the annual World Cruise Awards in Dubai, cementing the country's status in the tourism industry. This is the first time the country has bested India, Singapore, Japan, and many others to win this recognition. Other winners in the World Cruise Awards are Mozambique for Africa, Portugal in Europe, Alaska in North America, and Abu Dhabi as the world's best cruise destination, among others. The Philippine Ports Authority also highlights that an international cruise ship terminal will be opened in Siargao and Palawan in 2023, potentially to accommodate an increase in tourism.
The United Kingdom has assured its support of the armed forces of the Philippines in addressing the security challenges in the West Philippine Sea. JD Mahinay reports.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. met United Kingdom Ambassador Laura Fis to enhance the defense partnership between the two states. During the meeting, the military chief raised the territorial as well as sovereignty issues the country is facing with China's bullying in the West Philippine Sea to the envoy. AFP Public Affairs said the two officials agreed to be more vocal in common defense and diplomatic positions, specifically regarding the West Philippine Sea. Meanwhile, London extended its recognition to the Marcos administration's bold moves in addressing the security challenges in the said territorial waters amid China's dangerous and disruptive actions. JD Mahina reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The National Security Council, or NSC, defends its decision to designate Hamas as a terrorist group under the Philippines anti-terrorism law, emphasizing that it was not influenced by the United States or Israel. NSC Assistant Director General Jonathan Malaya clarifies that this decision was based on thorough investigations which revealed Hamas's attempts to infiltrate and carry out terrorist activities within the country. Malaya further explains that this designation is not contingent upon receiving favorable points from any nation. He highlights that Hamas has also already been declared a terrorist organization by several countries and international organizations, including the European Union and Australia.
Coming up, Vladimir Putin makes a rare trip overseas to visit an old friend. U.S. President Joe Biden announces a wartime visit to Israel. And the UN Security Council rejects Russia's proposition for an Israel-Gaza ceasefire. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
lang, pasagot po. May kausap lang po.
May kausap po siya eh.
Ayoko nga! Ang kulit-kulit mo kanina ka pa!
Tatahimik na naman ako pag sinagot mo na ako.
Kuya, ang kulit-kulit oh!
Histories about the past daw. In other words, nakaraan.
Ligpit nyo na po yung iba.
Pwede na namin isalin lahat ng kanin dito.
Hindi na po eh. Kasi nga po nakikita ng mga customer namin.
Hero only sa Net 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. China on Tuesday started a summit marking the 10th anniversary of its Belt and Road Initiative. RT correspondent Saskia Taylor tells us more.
Most colossal infrastructure projects of all time. Roads and railways, ports and power plants, AI and airports. Linking over 150 nations, bringing together more than 30 international organizations. Spending an estimated $1 trillion so far. We're in the home of One Belt, One Road. Just in time for its 10th birthday.
Over the past 10 years, the BRI cooperation has yielded fruitful results, and its circle of friends has continued to expand. It has been proven that the Belt and Road, which is not an exclusive and narrow gap, has transcended the outdated mentality of geopolitical games and created a new model of international cooperation. It is a belt of development and road to happiness that truly benefits the peoples of all countries.
Unveiled in 2013 as President Xi's flagship policy, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, has now expanded beyond people's wildest predictions. So there's the Belt. That's the revitalization of ancient overland trade routes connecting Europe to Asia. Then there's the Road, shipping lanes which follow in the sails of Marco Polo. China, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and on to Latin America too. And really, it all started right here at the Great Wall of China. One of the reasons that the world's largest man-made structure, was built was to protect the first international trading route, the Silk Road, which saw constant attacks from nomads in the north. As far back as 2,000 years ago, these flagstones saw the footsteps and caravans of men from far-flung places, speaking different languages, wearing different clothing, trading in spices and textiles, tea and ivory, gold and jade. As a nation bordering 14 other countries, China was and is uniquely placed to be a global nexus of trade, and not just trade.
I hope that by engaging in full exchanges of views, we will contribute to pursuing the Belt and Road Initiative, a project of the century, so it can bring benefits to people across the world. Projects for people-to-people cooperation such as the Silk Road Culture Year, the Tourism Year, the Art Festival, the Film and TV Project, the Seminar, and the think tank dialogue are flourishing. These interactions have brought our people increasingly closer.
The BRI has partly morphed into a cultural project too, funding scholarships, overseeing research cooperation, student exchanges. But economic interconnectivity remains at its heart. And it's not just the thousands of kilometres of railway tracks and fibre optic cables. Along the way, nearly 500,000 jobs have been created, and almost 40 million people have been lifted out of poverty. The BRI to date remains unchallenged, not just in terms of the amount of money invested, but in how it offers development without demands to fall in line on ideology.
Somebody from a developing country said to me, what we get from China is an airport. What we get from the United States is a lecture.
So here we are on a pile of stones in the middle of nowhere. Sure, then again, it's not called the Great Wall of China for nothing. And the name's not just testament to its monumental size. This right here is a symbol of China's longevity, of its enduring ambitions and success in connecting nations, and of its historic role in the facilitating of economic prosperity, not just for one, but for many.
In other news, Seoul is holding its largest defense exhibition Tuesday in a bid to boost its global sales in the arms industry. This year's Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition, or ADEX, is designed to help South Korea to become the world's fourth largest arms exporter. The South Korean government has set a goal of reaching $20 billion in defense exports within the year. This goal was set after the nation amassed $17.3 billion in arms sales in 2022. Data shows South Korea has settled as 9th in the world for defense exports in recent years. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, however, has called for it to improve.
Thousands rallied across Pakistan to express solidarity with Palestinians. They demanded that Israel stop bombing Palestine immediately. One speaker warned that if Israeli forces continue to assault Palestine, they will take control of the United States Embassy in Pakistan. The protesters also vowed support to Palestine by sending them financial aid and weapons to fight against Israel. The Pakistani government also condemned Israel's uneven use of force and the blockade of humanitarian help to Palestine.
In a rare turn of events, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Beijing to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on a widely watched trip aimed at showcasing the trust and no-limits partnership between the countries.
Отношения между Россией и Китаем в этой сфере экономического сотрудничества вышли на очень высокий уровень. Конечно, это все производное от того, что достигнуто в политической области, но тем не менее результаты более чем хорошие, они отличные. Каждый год мы прибавляем почти 1/3 товарооборота.
In only his second known trip abroad since the Hague-based International Criminal Court, or ICC, issued an arrest warrant for the Russian leader, Putin and his entourage flew into the Beijing Capital International Airport, where he was greeted by Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao. It is also the Kremlin chief's first official trip outside of the former Soviet Union this year, after visiting Kyrgyzstan earlier this month. Vladimir Putin traveled to attend the Third Belt and Road Forum in Beijing, an international cooperation forum championed by Xi Jinping. And he's also set to engage with the leaders of Vietnam, Thailand, Mongolia, and Laos. It would be Putin's third attendance of the Belt and Road Forum. As the forum's chief guest, Putin will speak after Xi and is set to engage in bilateral talks with the CCP cabinet soon after. Beijing has rejected Western criticism of its partnership with Moscow, even as the war in Ukraine showed no sign of ceasing, insisting that their ties do not violate international norms, and China has the right to collaborate with whichever country it chooses.
普京总统一到，回顾了10年来两国关系发展的成果，一致认为，两国关系远远超出双边范畴，对世界格局和人类前途命运至关重要。
Уверен, что у российско-китайского сотрудничества поистине безграничные возможности и перспективы.
The United States has reassured the European Union it remains committed to providing aid to Ukraine. That promise from U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Shen Kadusale reports.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen reiterates Washington's commitment at a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers. She is trying to calm EU fears over future support for Kyiv. European nations have been concerned after the U.S. Congress dropped new funding for Ukraine from a recent bill to avoid an American government shutdown. That triggered doubts about Washington's continued commitment to support Kyiv against invading Russian forces. Yellen says the West cannot allow Ukraine to lose the war for economic reasons.
We will do everything possible to put in place a robust Ukraine package.
Yellen adds the U.S. can afford to provide support to both Ukraine and Israel. Shen Kadusale from Atanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Former President Donald Trump vowed that if re-elected to the White House, he would reinstate the ban on migrants entering the United States. Trump said he will not allow anyone from Gaza, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, or Libya to set foot in the U.S. He also pledged to deport those who threaten the security of America. Trump pointed to the deadly assault by Hamas in Israel, raising fears about a potential attack on the U.S. He said he would revoke student visas of radical anti-American and anti-Semitic foreigners. He also asked the public to protect the United States from those who intend to sow violence. United States President Joe Biden is set to make an unusual wartime visit to Israel this week as he seeks to demonstrate staunch support for the country as they work to eradicate Hamas militants from the region.
And this moment, we have to be crystal clear. There is no justification for terrorism, no excuse, and the type of terrorism that was exhibited here was just beyond the pale, beyond the pale. As I said yesterday, my commitment to Israel's security and the safety of the Jewish people is unshakable. The United States has Israel's back, and we're going to be working on this all through today and beyond.
The White House press office also stated that his visit would enable him to formulate ways to ease humanitarian suffering and to get relief efforts to the people of Gaza. The dueling objectives highlighted by his cabinet bring significant risks to this trip as multiple world leaders work towards preventing the crisis in the Middle East from widening. Biden had expressed a strong interest in making the journey after being invited over the weekend by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been an acquaintance of the president for 4 decades. They spent a whole day deliberating over the trip at the White House with his top national security and intelligence advisors. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was convening a marathon session with top Israeli officials to discuss opening Gaza to humanitarian aid and preventing civilians from getting caught up in Israel's response to the terror attacks. Upon the announcement of Biden's trip, the United States and Israel agreed to develop a plan that would enable humanitarian aid from donor nations and multilateral organizations to reach civilians in Gaza. The U.S. president will also travel to Jordan, where he will meet with King Abdullah II, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt, and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. The president's visit will build on Blinken's 7-nation multi-day tour of the Middle East, which comes as the U.S. tries to strike a delicate balance of providing unwavering support for Israel's military operations while mitigating the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and stopping the war from spreading to further fronts. It wasn't clear ahead of Biden's visit whether any progress had been made on the opening of the Rafah crossing in Egypt, but Blinken said that it was on the top of the president's agenda upon arriving and that the government of Israel is committed to work on a plan.
Folks, there's no higher priority. And I know that people get on and talk to you and say they have an idea what it's like. But I know from experience there's not a single thing more worrisome than have someone you love, someone you adore, adores you, and not knowing their fate. Not knowing their fate. You made it clear how important this is to you, to me personally, and to all the American people. And it really is. It really, really is. We're not walking away. We're not walking away, I promise you.
Colombia has directed for Israel's ambassador in the country to leave amid a worsening spat over Colombian President Gustavo Petro's remarks on the Israel-Hamas war. Israel and the South American country have been in a diplomatic row over President Petro likening Israel's military actions to those of the Nazis. In response, Israeli ambassador to Colombia, Gali Dagan, accuses the Colombian president of anti-Semitism and putting Jewish lives in danger. Colombian Foreign Minister Alvaro Leiva lashes out on social media and tells Dagan to apologize and leave the country. The Colombian government's statements were initially in support of Israel, condemning the actions of Hamas militants. They have since switched stances, criticizing both sides, with no mention of the word terrorism in official statements.
Hamas spokesman Abu Abideh says they are holding 250 people captive since the massive onslaught on Israel's south on October 7. He also says the Israeli threat of ground invasion doesn't scare them. Jeff Sanidad has the details.
In a televised statement, Hamas spokesman Abu Ubaidah claims that Ezzedine al-Qassam brigades are holding 200 people captive since the massive onslaught on Israel's south on October 7. Ubaidah says there are about 50 others held by other resistance factions in other places. The foreign prisoners, he says, will be released when conditions are ripe. Ubaidah says 22 hostages taken from Israel had been killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. He is confident they are ready for the threat of an Israeli ground invasion of the blockaded Gaza Strip. The spokesman of Hamas military wing says this does not scare them. Jeff Sanidad for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Israel has asked the United States for $10 billion in emergency aid to fight back against Hamas forces. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said that U.S. President Joe Biden would get an update from Israeli officials about their strategy against Hamas in Gaza. Israel would also give Biden information concerning the pace and scope of military operations in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Israeli leaders turned down a request from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to make a visit of solidarity to their country. Zelensky reportedly wanted to make the trip alongside U.S. State Secretary Antony Blinken. But sources said Israeli officials told Zelensky that the time was not right. Last week, Zelensky gave his verbal support to Israel following the surprise attack of Hamas. Israel has previously expressed its support for Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression. It also provided Zelensky's government with humanitarian assistance, but Israel refused to send military aid to Ukraine. Analysts believe Israel wants to avoid antagonizing Russia, which has a strong military presence in Syria. The United Nations Security Council has rejected a Russian ceasefire resolution on Gaza. Christina Aguila has the details.
We'll consider a brief, purely humanitarian draft resolution that we proposed. Its main element was a call for an immediate, durable and fully respected humanitarian ceasefire. As you all understand, without a ceasefire, it will not be possible for there to be any humanitarian efforts. Moreover, our draft stipulates condemning all violence and all terrorist attacks, the opening up of humanitarian corridors, and the safe release of all hostages.
Don't send the signal that the Palestinian lives don't matter. Don't dare say Israel is not responsible for the bombs it is dropping over their heads. Don't justify the killings. Don't blame the victim. And I repeat, don't do that. What is happening in Gaza is not a military operation. It is a full-scale assault against our people. It is massacres against innocent civilians.
Russia's resolution condemned violence and terrorism against civilians, but it did not mention the Hamas attack, which killed more than 1,000 Israelis.
The Council now stands at one of its most pivotal crossroads. Will the Council support the fight for civilization, or will it incentivize the genocidal jihadists who aim to murder all the infidels?
United States Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield argued that Russia's failure to condemn Hamas meant Moscow was giving cover to a group that injures innocent civilians. Only China, United Arab Emirates, Mozambique, and Gabon joined Russia in voting for the resolution. But 4 countries voted against Moscow, and they were the United States, Britain, France, and Japan. The other 6 countries abstained. For a UN resolution to be adopted, it needs a minimum of 9 yes votes in the 15-member council. After the vote, Russian Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia said the UN Council once again has found itself a hostage to the selfish intentions of the West.
Сожалеем, что Совет в очередной раз оказался заложником эгоистических устремлений блока западных делегаций. Это единственная причина, по которой он не смог направить четкий, сильный коллективный сигнал, нацеленный на деэскалацию. А ведь речь идет о крупнейшей...
Another draft resolution that condemns Hamas, submitted by Brazil, will be put to a vote on Tuesday. Christina Aguila for Matana Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Turkey's foreign minister has put forth a proposal for a guarantor system in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, emphasizing Ankara's central role in shaping the idea of peace eventually being attained in the region, a sentiment echoed by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Ateşe körükle gitmenin başta her iki taraftaki siviller olmak üzere hiç kimseye bir faydası olmaz. Türkiye çatışmaların bir an önce durması, son hadiselerle birlikte iyice tırmanan gerilimin düşürülmesi için elinden geleni yapmaya hazırdır. Sükunetin tekrar tesis edilmesi için başlattığımız diplomatik çabaları yoğunlaştırarak devam ettirmekte kararlıyız. Bölgede söz sahibi tüm aktörleri de barışa samimiyetle katkı vermeye davet ediyoruz.
In an exclusive press briefing in the capital, Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan emphasized the need for multiple countries, including Turkey, to act as guarantors once both parties reach an agreement, with the responsibility to ensure its implementation. Fidan also emphasized the importance of international pressure on Israel to adopt a two-state solution. Discussions held between the Turkish foreign minister and the U.S. revealed that the Biden administration was also supportive of a two-state solution, as the minister pointed out the need for the international community to take a more active role in addressing the Israeli-Palestinian issue. He highlighted that the deployment of a peacekeeping force from Turkey to the region was not on the agenda, but he emphasized the importance of initiating steps toward a solution to achieve a lasting peace in the region. There is a necessity for regional countries to take responsibility and adopt a unified stance when dealing with any party in violation of the agreement, stressing the importance of transforming the current situation into an opportunity for peace, and that the presence of guarantor countries would be pivotal in achieving a sustainable resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
The Israeli military said that the head of the Hamas organization's general intelligence in Khan Yunis was killed in one of their airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. The name of the eliminated person was not mentioned, nor were any other details of the circumstances of the strike given. The Army press office released a short video of a strike on a building in the Gaza Strip with a caption that reads, and I quote, "The IDF assassinates the head of Hamas general intelligence in Khan Yunis." According to the military, the mortality audits conducted earlier today confirmed the death of one of their primary targets. Up next, Hamas militants released a video of another woman they abducted during the initial attack on Israel. The FBI warns Americans of possible Hamas-style attacks within U.S. borders. And Vision's 2030 Earth Edition explores pathways to a sustainable and resilient future. Please don't go away. We've got more stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka naming tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
The Islamist group Hamas released a video on Monday showing a statement from one of the captives seized in the devastating attack on Israel last October 7. The woman whose injured arm is shown being treated by an unidentified medical worker identifies herself as 21-year-old Mia Shem. Shem was captured on the first day of the attack and was among thousands of young Israelis attending the music event when Hamas fighters swept in, killing at least 260 people.
אני מיה שם, בת 21 משוהם. כרגע אני נמצאת בעזה. חזרתי ביום לפנות בוקר ביום שבת לפנות בוקר מאזור שדרות, הייתי במסיבה. נפצעתי קשה מאוד ביד, לקחו אותי לעזה, ניתחו אותי ביד פה בבית חולים.
Meanwhile, Mia's mother, Karen Shem, urged world leaders to free her daughter. She had not known whether her daughter was alive or dead until the released footage. French President Emmanuel Macron responded by condemning Hamas for the video and demanded her unconditional release. The president added that the government was working with its partners to free French hostages as they held talks with the families of people who had been killed or abducted, including Shem's.
ואני מבקשת ממנהיגי העולם להחזיר את כל השבויים שלנו הביתה, כי אנחנו עברנו פה מתקפת טרור מטורפת שקרתה בישראל, ומחר היא תהיה בצרפת, ומחרתיים בארצות הברית, והאויב מאוד מאוד אכזר. זה ממש פשע נגד האנושות.
The World Health Organization, or WHO, is calling for an end to the hostilities causing untold suffering in Israel and the Gaza Strip. Roussel Feria reports.
WHO says more than 1,000 people died when Hamas and others attacked Israel on Saturday. Another 900 are dead after Israel bombed Gaza the following days. Many more are injured in both places. WHO is offering assistance to health officials in both Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi agreed to a WHO request to facilitate delivery of health and other humanitarian supplies from the health agency to Gaza. This via the Rafah crossing. In the Gaza Strip, hospitals are running on backup generators. Fuel for those will likely run out in the coming days. They have exhausted the prepositioned supplies before the escalation. WHO says the life-saving health response is now dependent on getting new supplies and fuel to healthcare facilities as fast as possible. The health agency also calls for the safe release of hostages, many of whom have urgent health and medical needs. In Washington, D.C., Roussel Feria for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI Director Christopher Wray, warned there is a rising number of terrorist threats in the United States since the Hamas attack on Israel last weekend. He urged citizens to be vigilant and wary of violent acts inspired by the Palestinian group.
In this heightened environment, there's no question we're seeing an increase in reported threats, and we've got to be on the lookout, especially for lone actors who may take inspiration from recent events to commit violence of their own. So I'd encourage you to stay vigilant, because as the first line of defense, protecting our communities, you're often the first to see the signs that someone may be mobilizing to violence. I'd also ask you to continue sharing any intelligence or observations you may have, and on our end, we're committed to doing the same so that together we can safeguard our communities.
On Tuesday, a gunman suspected of killing 2 Swedish nationals in a terrorist attack in Brussels has died after being shot by police. Police opened fire on the suspect after he was cornered following an overnight manhunt in north-central Brussels. Sweden expressed its devastation over the shooting of the attacker in a Euro qualifier match between Belgium and Sweden on Monday night. It was abandoned at halftime, where some 35,000 fans were evacuated from the King Baudouin Stadium in Brussels. In a video shared online, the gunman was then seen wearing an orange jacket, stalking people and shooting them. According to reports, the suspect was identified as 45-year-old Abdesalem Lasoued. He is believed to be a man of Tunisian origin who was in Belgium illegally after having his asylum application rejected. Prosecutors said the attacker had indicated the Swedish nationality of his victims was the motivation, and there appeared to be no links with the emotion triggered by the conflict between Israel and Hamas. In Jordan, a massive sandstorm smothered the Azraq region. Footage shows civilians outside running to take shelter as the sky turns orange. Authorities have announced to the public to refrain from traveling due to a significant decrease in visibility on the highway. Health authorities advise residents to remain inside their homes over respiratory damage the sandstorm brings.
2 people are dead after being swept away by flood waters in central Vietnam. The victims are a 61-year-old man and a 13-year-old boy. Arlene Ocampo has the details.
The country has been hit by heavy rain since Tuesday, and the downpour is expected to continue for the next several days. Almost 500 houses have been inundated with water. In the coastal city of Da Nang, officials evacuated about 5,000 people on the weekend from flooded areas. Elsewhere, the water washed out roads and reached chest-high levels. Vietnam is frequently lashed by harsh weather in the rainy season between June and November. Since the beginning of the year, natural disasters have claimed about 100 lives in the country. Arlene Ocampo from Atanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In a curious incident in Connecticut, United States, a black bear demonstrated its resourcefulness by breaking into a home and raiding the freezer for food. The intruder was captured on camera as it nonchalantly roamed through the house, made its way to the kitchen, and opened the freezer to snatch a bag of frozen lasagna. Subsequently, the bear used the freezer door to hoist itself out of the window while it held the pack between its teeth. Fortunately, the homeowners have reported no damage to their property aside from the stolen food. Bear activity has been on the rise in Connecticut over the past 5 years. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has issued a warning to locals, urging them to remain vigilant and promptly report such incidents to ensure the safety of both the community and the bears.
To fight climate change, New Zealand plans to tax farmers for their livestock's burps and gases. New Zealand's economy is also driven by agriculture, with around 10 million cattle and 25 million sheep roaming the nation's pastures. The government says farmers will be taxed based on farm area, livestock numbers, production, and their use of nitrogen fertilizer.
It's important for New Zealand to lower our greenhouse gas emissions, including from agriculture, just as it is for every other country in the world.
But farmers fear the taxes will hurt profits and threaten their livelihoods. They have held nationwide protests in New Zealand's main cities to voice out their concerns over new tax applications. To give farmers more time to get ready, the Labour government has pushed the start of the emissions pricing back from the first to the fourth quarter of 2025.
Envisioning a world reshaped by innovative solutions and environmental commitment. Vision's 2030 Earth Edition explores pathways to a sustainable and resilient future. In Valencia, California, Eva and Alan Basalyay have this report.
Issues facing the planet and strategies for addressing them are the focal points of Vision's 2030 Earth Edition.
Climate change, global health concerns, and sustainability are a few of the matters bringing innovative minds from various fields to this eco-inspired think tank.
The Lumisphere experience is a 3-chamber journey through 3 geodesic domes. It spans 4,300 square feet. It was designed to take people on a journey to reconnect to the things that they care about, to inspire them to open their hearts, open their imaginations, to envision what an ideal eco-future might look like.
We are inside the Succulent Garden. It's a multi-sensory experience. It's not only an exhibit that you walk through. We would like you to make it your home and to just come in, take a nap, read a book, have a deep convo with someone.
Community is the new hero. It takes all of us together on this planet to be its steward, to take care of it, to not only, or even just interact with it safely, and together only as communities can we make things happen. Now we are endeavoring to do a different world and what we call optimistic futuring.
We're trying to tap into local
talent, organizations, groups of people, musicians, artists who are already doing the work. They're already creating inspiration. They're already doing deep research. They're already working with solutions.
Through art, through immersive experiences, through music, through food, and through community, how can we make a shift? Anybody who's open wants to have a good time, wants to meet other cool people who really are doing things in the world to make it a better world. This is your place.
From integrated technology to policy reform, this event challenges attendees to look through a visionary's lens.
This in an effort to inspire thought and critical planning of how we as a society can achieve a sustainable and regenerative future for everyone.
Reporting from Valencia, California, Eva and Allen for Matanong Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, social media platform LinkedIn cuts ties with hundreds of employees. Oscar-winning actor Michelle Yeoh has been elected as a member of the IOC. And Disney celebrates 100 years despite their actors remaining in the picket lines. Catch the latest in business, sports, tech, and entertainment. Matanong Agila International will be back.
Ako po ang inyong katuwang tungkol sa usaping ito.
Nasa puso dapat ng Pilipino to love what is Filipino.
Kaya dapat ihayag ng saloobin.
Kahit gaano kasi karami yung doktor natin, kung may bayad din, baliwala din.
Paano makakabili ang Pilipino ng bigas?
Himayin ang hinaing.
Gaano karaming pera bang kailangan mo para maging masaya ka?
Alamin ang pwedeng gawin.
So I think the lesson is, pag may fake news, i-correct ka agad ng people concerned.
Sagutin mo agad. Mag-reality check tayo.
Check yun.
Check
na check.
na check.
Double check.
Check the check tayo dyan.
Microsoft-owned LinkedIn is slashing almost 700 employees as revenue growth has slowed over the past 2 years. Business and employment-focused social media platform announced Monday that it cut 688 employees as the company's year-over-year revenue slowed for 8 consecutive quarters. Sources say that most of the cuts are coming from the engineering organization as well as the finance and human resources groups. Despite membership growth increasing each quarter for the past 2 years, Microsoft said in July that revenue grew just 5% in the second quarter compared to the 10% in the previous quarter. The layoffs affected 3% of the 20,000-strong LinkedIn staff, adding to the tens of thousands of job losses in the technology sector this year alone. On its blog, LinkedIn stated that it is adapting their organizational structures and streamlining their decision-making. The company is known for its modern takes on retro hardware. Analog unveils its reimagining of Nintendo 64 that supports 4K output. The firm said the new console will have 100% compatibility with N64 cartridges in every region. The device also includes original display modes featuring reference quality recreations of specific mode cathode ray tubes. The firm added that the console has Bluetooth support and 4 controller ports. Analog has yet to release its price or a specific release date beyond 2024.
Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh was voted to be an Olympic Committee member. This after Yeoh was elected into the International Olympic Committee with 67 votes to 9 with 1 abstention. She was one of 8 new members voted in on the final day of the 141st IOC session in Mumbai, India. For IOC President Thomas Bach, choosing Yeoh as one of its members says that she has a strong love of sports and will bring diverse expertise in different walks of life. Yeoh's strongest connections to sports are being a former Malaysian junior squash champion and through her husband, John Todt, a former boss of the Ferrari team in Formula One racing. Tim Ballard, the U.S. child trafficking activist who inspired the movie Sound of Freedom, was accused of assault. We have our very own Nina with the story.
Tim Ballard, the former chief of an anti-sex trafficking nonprofit group called Operation Underground Railroad, was accused of sexual assault and emotional abuse. Ballard inspired the recent box office thriller Sound of Freedom, which is based on his heroic stories of going undercover and traveling overseas to rescue women and children who were victims of sex trafficking. The lawsuit, filed in Salt Lake County, Utah on Monday, names Ballard, the organization, as well as its board members as defendants. Ballard denies these allegations, but he has resigned from the organization 2 months ago. According to the lawsuit, Ballard used a tactic called the couple's ruse in his sting operations. He and a female partner who traveled with him in rescue operations would pretend that they were a married couple to fool traffickers. The women who traveled with him were also Mormons, and 5 of them are now accusing Ballard of sexual misconduct and abusive behavior for what happened during the sting operations. The lawsuit also claims that the nonprofit and its board members knew of Ballard's misconduct, but either ignored or silenced the alleged victims.
Sir Michael Caine is retiring from acting. The 90-year-old British film star confirmed his retirement in a BBC radio interview on Saturday, confirming that The Great Escaper will be his last film. The 2-time Oscar winner, whose career spanned 8 decades and who appeared in more than 160 films, said, in his words, "I keep saying I'm going to retire. Well, I am now." Caine's last movie, The Great Escaper, is a 2023 Indo-American action film inspired by a real-life World War II veteran who made headlines in 2014 after escaping his care home to attend D-Day anniversary celebrations in France. The 2-time Academy Award winner also mentioned in the interview that he is currently writing and discussed his debut novel, the thriller Deadly Game, which is set to be released in November. Caine has received numerous awards, including 2 Academy Awards, a BAFTA Award, 3 Golden Globe Awards, and a Screen Actors Guild Award. In 2000, he received a BAFTA Fellowship and was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. The strike continues. Hollywood actors walk the picket line for the 95th day. This as Disney celebrates the company's 100th year. Tristan Diaz has more.
Today is the 100-year anniversary of Disney Studios and day 95 of the SAG-AFTRA strike. We would love to be a part of the celebration with Disney, but unfortunately the CEOs walked away from the table just last week, so we're going to hold a party of our own out here. Happy birthday, Disney.
The Walt Disney Company is celebrating its 100th anniversary, but not everyone is happy about the milestone event. Jordan Mitchell, Love along with other Hollywood actors are holding a different kind of party outside the Disney studio.
It's just really ironic that they're having this celebration of their workers when some of the people who have given them the amount of money and the global recognition that they have are out here wishing and wanting a fair deal.
Feels different being here in this capacity than normally being very celebratory. Congratulations to them, but also boo on them for meeting this mark and not supporting us in all of our efforts and giving us the best treatment possible for all the entertainment that we as actors and writers have brought them over the years.
Michelle Carter, another actor, is disappointed with the non-support she says they are given. Actor Tim Bremer commits that if the situation demands, they will be here for the long haul.
I think it's very disingenuous. They offered us a worse deal when they first offered
back in the beginning. So I mean, it's been a long road, but we're not going anywhere. So it's up to them.
Tristan Diaz for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
And to send you off tonight, here's a quote from Canadian actor and musician, and I love him, Keanu Reeves. Sometimes we get so caught up in our daily lives that we forget to take the time out to enjoy the beauty in life.
I love him too. That's great.
We do, don't we?
That's a great quote from him because we do get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. You and I are very lucky because we found hobbies that make us happy
So true.
and that we have the time for. So I hope everybody finds that as well.
Take the time to smell the flowers.
Smell the flowers. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you for choosing news source, connecting you to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.